Fahad from NimbleWorks. Basically, I am principal software engineer here. So today we are going to discuss about the TV action where you can connect it to the data source that is available in Kairon. You can connect to the data source that is available in Kairon, as well as we will be discussing about model configuration and different type of configurations that are available in Kairon so that you can have uh, so that configuration that you can use for different kind of various bot assistant. So now we'll start with the DB action. So we have created data sample bot. So before dive in, we'll consider a scenario where you have a data source and you have lot of data. Consider a database, MySQL database or a Mongo database, and you want to have a real-time feature that you can query that database, and your bot must be able to do some operations on that database like filtering a value and fetching the data from that particular database and showing it to the Chiron, okay, or showing it into your bot. So for that kind of scenario, Chiron has a feature known as GB action. So let me share my screen. So I'll take you to the components and the action. So we have created some action, database action. So before diving into this, we'll go to this data source where you can create the data. So I have created some database for the testing purpose. So this is for menu items that are available in the system. Similarly, we have created some menu. So how to create this data source? So this is a data source. Either you can use API. If you want to have a real-time data, you can get it integrated via API. And if you want to have a static data, you can create it via UI. So let's create a static data source. So you can give it any name like just, for example, clothing. And you have to specify payload. Now we need to add columns. So we can add your size. It must be text, save. So you can see this column has been created. Now we can add content, size Excel, and you can save it here. So this is with a single column. So I forgot to add multiple. Let's delete this and create a new clothing package table. Clothing. We have to make it payload. You can add a column name as size, which can be text. Whether you want to enable a text search and whether you want to enable a contextual search, you need to enable embedding. Yes. If you don't want it for contextual search, you can make this as no. So create embedding is nothing for a contextual search. For example, if you type, I want to have some clothing of Excel size, so system will be able to understand that. And if you want to purely work on a keyword, then you need to have this enable keyword search. Similarly, we can add more columns. Cloth type. We want to enable contextual search as well as keyword search. So we are making it as type. Okay, type can be uh, trouser, t-shirt, etc. So now you can see this table has been created. Now you can add size and type. Okay, so now size is Excel, type is t-shirt, just for a scenario. You can save it. If you want to have more columns, we can add it more. We can, I'll create it here. Creating payload. For example, you can add size, text. This I have already explained. Enable search for keyword search, embedding search. Similarly, we can add color. Then we can add type. Then we can add a column name as brand, which brand it belongs to. Okay, so we can create this. So now we add the data. So size is Excel, color is blue, type is t-shirt, brand is MLM. You can save this. You can see the data. Similarly, we can add more double Excel. We can add large, red color, type is t-shirt, brand is Zara. Similarly, we can add more. Size is small, color is. So in this similar way, we can create a whole lot of data. So this is a static data that we have created by our UI. So you can have this list going on. So I have created some items and some menus. Now, once this data source has been created, so we need to create a flow for using this data source. So we need to come to a conversation, and we have created a story. So this is a story where what happened is that whenever whatever user types it, so here we have LLM applied. So you can see the previous episode of Kairon where you can get how to use LLM and you can get a detailed description of how to use LLM and various different configurations that are available with the LLMs. So here we have configured an LLM. So where we are extracting the content what user types and we are generating the filter. So once that filter is generated, so you can see this JSON context. So we have all the instruction that the LLM has to follow. So once whatever user types, all the contextual information is extracted. And once that information is extracted, it is then passed into the database data source that we have created. So currently it is being attached to menu items, menu data source that I have created earlier, and it will extract the data. And then we have a PyScript action. In this PyScript action, you can write a custom code for either you want to extract data or you want to display or you want to format the data. So this is a very powerful feature of Kairon. So this you can this also I think so this has been covered in our earlier podcast. So you can see that for the detailed implementation of PyScript action. And once that is done, then the content is displayed to the user. So this is nothing but a flow. So what is a flow? Flow is nothing but a storyline that bot has to be followed. So now we have created this data source from the menu item. The bot has been trained. And now let's see how it performs on the production. So before that, we need to also configure the action, right? So you can see we have enabled a payload search. So this is the action name, items. This has a search type. Either you want to do an embedding search, that is a contextual search, or a payload search. So currently I'm going to show you the payload search as embedding search is still in a beta phase and still continuously being developed. So we will be demonstrating how to use payload search. So payload search is basically the keyword search. So for example, if I type anything about give me non-veg item, it will go and search for the keyword, exact keyword in the database, in the data source. Then I have attached it to the menu data source. So I'll open the menu data source in another tab. So you will be able to see what does it contains. So this is a menu data source. As you can see, it has name, it has price, and it has category. So I'm using the menu data source. Slot type, this is a configuration how to pick the data for filtering. So this JSON slot, so if you can see this prompt, the content from the prompt action is set into the slot. So Kairon has a very powerful feature where you can send the data or you can pass the data from one action to another action. So this slot is nothing but it's a kind of memory that helps you to pass the information. So what we have done is that the filter, the format that is generated by the prompt action, we are capturing it into a slot name as JSON format, and we are passing it to the another action in the same flow, that is items. So this is a very powerful feature. You can see the Kairon documentation, or you can connect with the Kairon team or Kairon support team to get understand about the slot, or you can see the previous podcast about how to use the slots. And once, so you can see the slot JSON format, which has been described in this JSON prompt, is being passed to items, this database action. And now database action will use the values that are specified in JSON prompt and filter the data. And once that data is filtered, it will pass to this extract JSON data, and it will do all kind of pre-processing for you. And then once the pre-processing is done, then the data is displayed on the Kairon client. So these are the terms that are related to the bot. So let's start with a sample. Let me restart the session for the bot. Right. So now let me restart the browser as well. So now this session has been cleared for the bot memory. So now let's ask show me non-veg items under 500. Oh, the system has failed. Let us check what has gone wrong. So the system has failed because it is unable to retrieve the value. So let us check, or what we can use non-veg items. So you can see the system is able to extract the data from the menu data source, that is butter chicken and chicken koliwala, and it is able to display it on your Kairon client. And now you can have a very this is a very basic use case, as this is a bot, right? Basically it's not a bot, it's basically a digital assistant. So there are chances that the system will fail, and there will be a team which will be continuously evolving a bot in Kairon service itself. Okay. So now you can also search for items in juice category. Let's see what happens. So you can see we get a sweet lime soda with a price, right? So now this use case is only about displaying the menu items. We can build a sophisticated use case using Kairon where we can also take orders. You can also process their orders via Kairon itself, and you can also have a payment facility where you can place the order in Kairon itself and also take the payment. Kairon will generate the payment link and send it to the user. That can also be done because Kairon has a feature known as a Razorpay integration. If you have some kind, and even we are planning to have more payment gateway integrations where you can take the payment via Kairon itself. So now let's see some another item, bench items. Let's see where the system is able to identify. So now you can see system is able to identify wedge items. So why the system here failed? Show non-veg item under 500 because as we have used a keyword search, right? And because embed and the contextual search is not enabled via DB action, that's why the system is not able to identify. So in the coming podcast, once that feature is stable, we will be able to show you the demo of how to use contextual searching in Chiron. And this is a very powerful feature. So for example, if you have a data source, we can directly link your data source to Chiron and it will schedularly update. We can update the data in a particular interval and we can use that data in Chiron itself. Chiron, this is a demo for Chiron client. We are giving the demo from client. Similarly, you can connect to a various different channels if you are using WhatsApp because nowadays WhatsApp is a very hot channel people are using. So Chiron, you can use Chiron and WhatsApp and you can take orders from WhatsApp itself and Chiron will be able to process those orders for you. So this will help you to increase the sales and increase your turnaround time uh, for your customers placing the orders. So you can have more number of customers placing the orders via chatbot Chiron itself. So this is about the database action, very basic use case. Based on the use case, we can also have a complicated uh, data source or data types that we can use and we can model that in Chiron itself. Similarly, for clothing, you can have for mobile shops, you can have a data source that can be mapped in Chiron. Sorry. Then you can have any e-commerce data source, even if you have financial database that can also map into Chiron. Any kind of database that have key-value pair that can be used in Chiron and Chiron will be able to query that database. This is a very powerful feature to have the customer get their data via bot itself. Just take a classic example of insurance, right? It is very useful. So if you want to have a chatbot which is sitting on the WhatsApp, and if the person want have purchased a policy and he wants to know how to register a claim, so in that case, Chiron will be very helpful for you and even you can pump that data in this data source in Chiron and Chiron will be able to show what is a policy type, how many people are covered in that policy, and in the past whether the particular claim has been raised, how many claims has been raised, how many claims has been settled. That can also be mapped via this Chiron feature. This is a very powerful feature. So this is a basic use case about database action. So now let us see about model configuration. So let me take you the model configuration screen. So this is a model configuration. So what is model configuration first? So model configuration is nothing but the pipeline that AI, because bot and AI assistance is nothing but a machine learning system which has some kind of components because anything in the world has a components. Even if you consider this mobile, right? It has various different components like camera, speaker, Bluetooth chip, processor. Similarly, for any kind of AI system, you have a various different components, and that components help you to achieve a specific task in your bot, in your bot system, right? So this pipeline helps to achieve various kind of functionality, right? And from that component, the bot is able to understand what user is typing. So for any kind of machine learning system, you have to provide some kind of data. Bots learns that data, and based on that data, it will try to predict the output. What will be the output for a particular user input? So the model configuration is Kairon, as Kairon is based on Rasa open source engine. So it is purely derived from the Rasa configuration. So either you can also refer to the Rasa configuration document here, which is available online itself. You can see here. So you can, if you want to get a deep dive about various different configuration, you want to learn the mathematics behind the various components, you can go to this page. Here we will be dealing about the overview of the features and the various different pipelines that are available in Chiron. So you can see it is divided into pipeline. So first is a pipeline, and second is a policy. So this pipeline is basically for processing the user input. So whatever user types, for example, if I am typing here veg items, so now system is doing some kind of processing on the input. Okay, and then you have a policy section which contains the processing for the output, right? So it is a combination of both. So this pipeline, so you can see white space tokenizer. Basically what it does, it breaks your input into a tokens which is split by white space. Then you have regex featureizer. Regex featureizer is a very powerful feature for lookups. So in next podcast or in the upcoming podcast, you will be having a detailed video about what are lookups in Chiron and how you can use it. Then second is lexical syntactic featureizer. This featureizer is nothing but it helps to identify entities. Entities are nothing but important keywords in the sentence that user types. So this helps the system to identify the entities. Then you have vector featureizer. It is useful for identifying the category of the user input, at which bucket it belongs to. That is known as intent in Chiron. Then you have similarly count vectorizer with another configuration as minimum min n-gram and maximum n-gram. This is nothing but a combination of words that we have to consider for identifying on which bucket this particular user input belongs. So these are nothing but a featureizers. So featureizer are basically we are converting the data into vectors, and then this is a classifier itself. This is a main component which classifies to which bucket the user input belongs. So so we are training this guide classifier, and these are nothing white space tokenizer, regex featureizer, lexical syntactic featureizer, count vector featureizer. These both featureizer, these are nothing but generating the, the training examples, converting the training example into a machine language that the system understand and training the guide classifier. Then we have fallback classifier. This fallback classifier checks if the accuracy of the classified intent is if below the threshold, then it will fall back the system. It will generate a catch-all response for the bot. Then you have synonym mappers. Synonym mapper is nothing but basically it is used to identify the synonyms. For example, mouse in the laptop is a pointing device. So if the user type pointing device, it must automatically get converted into the mouse for the system. Similarly, keyboard. It is also known as typing pad, right? So this synonym mapping configuration is used for mapping the word to their base word. And this is response selector. Response selector is basically used for intent and sub-intent kind of feature in Kairon, which will be covered in the which can be detailed covered in the earlier in the next subsequent subsequent uh, podcast. Now we have policies. Policies are nothing but it helps you to predict the actions that system has to take. So now the upper part is purely for identifying the intent. What is a user intention? Now this policies is used to identify the user action. So I'll tell you, if you can see, I'll show you on, this is our story. This is our story. So we have configured a story in the NLU fallback where system is not able to understand anything, then it will go to the NLU fallback and it will try to answer the user query. So you can see the flow. This part is known as intent prediction, NLU fallback, which is covered by this pipeline. Now you have second part, those are nothing but the action execution. These action executions are covered by policies. So we have two parts. One is intent prediction and another is action execution. So this both are done. You can control their execution via Kairon model configuration. So here you have memoization policy, you have tag policy, and you have rule policy. So as you can see, this is a rule. So rules are nothing but a water flow kind of system. Water flow kind of flow where it starts from the top and it completes till the end. So where you don't want to have any kind of dynamics, you just want to have a waterfall kind of flow. You can have a rule policy. So this rule policy checks and execute once the intent is predicted. It executes the action in a water flow model from top to bottom. So once it has predicted that it has fallback, then it will execute the JSON from. After the execution of JSON from, it will go to execute items, then it will go to execute extract data, and then it will reset. So similarly, you can see this. I'll open our logs so you can see how this water flow has been executed. So you can see this JSON prompt. Whatever I have typed, non-veg under 500, it starts with JSON execution, JSON prompt action, then DB action, then py script action, and then it will reset the slots, right? So this is how the rule follows the waterfall kind of methodology. Well, once the intent is predicted, it will execute all the action in the flow one by one till the last action. Then you have tag policy. Tag policy is used when you want to have dynamics in the flow. Dynamics in the flow means you want to jump from one story to another story, right? Because any kind of bot follows a storyline. So, for example, you are in a one flow, and you want to switch the flow and go to another story. In that case, tag policy helps you to achieve that, where you can have the dynamicity in your flow. It is not static like rule. Then you have memoization policy. This policy is basically used to optimize the execution time, because what happens is that here the bot will try to remember the previous executions, and it will directly respond from his memory. So it will try to remember the past responses and past predictions. So this will help you to speed up the execution of the system, that is the digital assistant, and give the output very fast. So these are the two type of pipeline configuration. One is pipeline and another is policy that is available in Kairon. So now Kairon team has already curated a list of configuration that you can directly use, because as using this configuration required to have a little bit depth knowledge of machine learning system, how they works and what are their baseline principle. So to help the user, instead of going to that depth of understanding the machine learning part, we have curated various configuration that you can directly use. So this is by default the Chiron configuration. Sorry, this is a default configuration. I think so. That is a RASA default. So this is basically purely keyword based configuration, where system will only able to identify the intent based on the keywords. This is purely keywords. It is not that smart and it is not that contextual. Then Chiron team has created a Chiron default configuration. This configuration is basically a contextual configuration. If you can see, we have added a component known as language model featureizer. This is nothing but this pre-trained model contains the English language knowledge, and we are using that English language knowledge. We are transferring that English language knowledge to the digital assistant and the bot we are training, so that with a minimal training example, system must be able to understand the user intent. So this is a very contextual configuration and very optimized one that you can directly use. This configuration will work for any kind of bot or digital assistant that you train on Caron, whether it is contextual, whether it has long answer or whether it has short answer. You can directly use it. Even if you further you want to play with other configuration, you can use this contextual configuration. You can use this word embedding one. Then you have this long answer. Long answer use something known as Convarti featureizer, but still our Chiron default featureizer overcomes this RT because this is one of the best that we have identified. Even you can use this one if you want to use GPT kind of bot. So there are various different configurations that we have curated for you. You can directly use this configuration. Or if you have your own RASA bots that you have trained and you want to migrate it into Chiron, then you can share the configuration and we can tweak that configuration according to the Chiron and give you the best curated configuration for your bot. So this is regarding the model configuration. This is just an overview. For in-depth knowledge, you can connect, or if you have a very complicated bot, you can connect with our team, or you can even check the RASA model configuration link, and you can get the deep and detailed knowledge about the various different components. So this is about the DB action and about the model configuration that are available in Kairon. So these are the two features. These are very powerful, and this model configuration is nothing but it is a heart of for any kind of bot system. Chiron has this model configuration. Even if you go with other kind of digital assistant system, they also have this pipeline configuration, and this is a heart because this configuration is nothing but this act as a brain for your bot system or digital assistant system. So this is how Chiron helps you to have a different kind of configuration for your bot system. So we are done with the two topics. Any question? I'll stop the sharing. Any question you guys have about GB action or about model configuration that you want us me to elaborate about? Okay, so this is all about the Chiron DB action and model configuration. Thanks for joining my podcast, and see you soon in the next our upcoming podcast as well. Bye.